And I picked this up, Box Brown's book, Andre the Giant: Life and Legend, at Third Eye Comics in Annapolis, Maryland. Shout out to them. They have the most amazing comic book store I've ever been in my life, and I saw this in the documentary section of the store, and I had to pick it up because I remember Andre the Giant, and before there were all these documentaries out on Andre and a new generation of people learning about Andre the Giant. I knew him, from the 1980s, and watching him on TV and hearing stories from my grandfather and because apparently he and my father went to one of these like dark episode things that they used to do, kind of like, you've heard about with baseball with barnstorming. They used to do that with wrestling. And one of the WWF events, or what would become the WWF, came to the local area, and they were going to bring Andre the Giant. And obviously, because that puts butts in seats, right? Andre the Giant, everyone wants to see how big this guy is. And my grandfather said to me that I wanted to go experience this because I wanted to see how big this guy was. And he's like, he was gigantic. He was huge, larger than life. So I remember hearing about Andre when I was a kid, and then watching him on TV, when the WWF would be taping their stuff, and you would watch it, over the weekends or on a weeknight or whatever. So it was really an interesting time in sports entertainment. It was right when that that genre of entertainment was just exploding. Vince McMahon was doing an amazing job with that. He still is, obviously. But when I saw this on the shelf, I knew I had to pick it up because it's two things that I love the most. It brings back memories of my childhood, and second, it's in comic book form. And when I was in the early 90s, when early 1990s, late 1980s, I was getting into comic books. So this brings back a lot of memories that we're going to go over here. Also, the reason why I wanted to do this, I wanted the audience interaction, right? And if you have any stories about, going to these events back in the day or meeting personalities, that would be awesome to interact with you and to have that all come back up and to relive those moments while we're going through the book review. That's why I wanted to do it in this way. John, good evening, John. We got John McFarland. We got John Owens in here. Jen, good evening. Thank you for the love on the shirt. This is my shirt from the Pharmacy Museum in New Orleans. They did tape a lot in Allentown back in the day. Allentown was like the hub for the old WWF back in the day, especially in the 80s and stuff like that. And a lot of the guys talk about that. But this was a great book for me to pick up because it was, a very well-written comic. It's only 230 pages. And when you look inside of it, it's the classic black and white comic series, kind of like we would see back in the newspapers and stuff like that back in the day. Really, really enjoyed the art in here. Box Brown did a fantastic job with that. And when I picked it up also, I flipped to the back of the book because I want to look on the back cover and see, Box Brown's bio in the back. But also, it was really great that they put a glossary of wrestling terms. So if you're not familiar with wrestling terminology, here's a glossary of the wrestling terms. Awesome little thing there. And then he included his bibliography, which was fantastic because this may not be footnoted. These things may not be footnoted to a T or anything like that. But you're starting to see where he's getting some of these stories from. Is the dialogue exactly like it would have been, at the time? Is this exactly what they said? Probably not. But you're getting these stories from people who were there. And if you look in the bibliography, you're going to recognize some of the names. I mean, Ted DiBiase's in here, Terry Funk. You got Mean Gene Okerlund's DVD is in here. there's people that we remember from back in the day who Ken Patera interviews and stuff like that, Bobby Heenan. So you're getting a lot of this in here, and you're seeing where some of these stories are coming out of, which I really, really appreciated. The book goes in chronological order from Andre's earliest years up until his bout with Hulk Hogan, where he loses to Hogan and loses the championship to Hogan. That's basically the end of the book. So you're seeing it from the early days of when he is this kind of mythical creature in European wrestling circles, and then over here in North America, Japan, and you start to see how the progression of the wrestling industry works in the 1970s, the 1980s. And it was awesome to read through it in this format, because I had obviously seen like the Andre the Giant documentary that was brought out. I believe it's available on HBO right now. And there were other things that had come out on Andre over the years, obviously, because he was just, no pun intended, he was larger than life. He was one of the reasons why people came out to these events. They wanted to see Hulk Hogan. They wanted to see Andre the Giant. So it was great to go over some of those memories, because I remember some of these things that happened in the book as far as what was seen on TV. And it was awesome. I didn't know this, Matt, that Ted DiBiase has a little church outside Shepherdstown. That's crazy. I didn't know that. I knew he had a church. I just didn't realize it was outside of Shepherdstown. That's amazing. WrestleMania 3 was 34 years ago yesterday. So this is timely. Wow. That is timely, isn't it? I didn't realize we were going to be that timely with this live stream tonight. That's awesome. I really got into, this genre of work, because for some reason, for about the last 2 years, I started to think about, if I was to write a book, I would want to write a graphic novel based in history, because that's kind of like the way my brand operates, right? It's a little bit different. It's a little bit rogue. And I started to pick up books like this. I've got about 5 now of this style, where it's a historical person and it talks about it in a comic format, if you will, a graphic novel format, if you want to go that route with it. And I was basically, thinking about, this is something I might want to get interested in. So from that standpoint, I was getting introduced to the art. I was getting introduced to the storyline, how people tell stories in these graphic novels or graphic documentaries, and thinking about ways to connect a new audience with the past. And that's what this does. People who may have never seen Andre the Giant on TV is now going to be introduced to him in a different way. Now, this book came out in 2014, so it's almost 7 years old. This is not a new thing that came out, but it's still being seen on the shelves, and it's still being picked up off the shelves. I got the last copy that was there that week, probably for a few weeks. That was the last copy there. The guy behind the counter at Third Eye Comics was like, "That's an awesome book." And we chatted for a moment about, vintage wrestling and who we liked and who we despised and all this stuff. So this opens up new dialogue, right, for the future. And I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great way for people who maybe have ADHD or have more of a creative mindset to really start to get introduced to a historical narrative, even if the dialogue in here may not be exactly what was said or whatever else. The bibliography is in the back for you to go find out more information. And I love that. Yes, it's not footnoted. Yeah, that's fine. But I know where you got your information from. And we can take that and utilize that to our advantage. I mean, Dave Meltzer's stuff is in here. Bill Apter, Classy Freddie Blassie. I mean, come on, these are names that I haven't heard in a long, long time. And I was really, really, um, you know, I've really, really had to have this book because, I mean, look at the cover art. That just pops when you see it on the shelf. And just to see Andre the Giant in comic form is just awesome because he was like a real life comic character. It's this giant that comes to life, and he's doing all this amazing stuff until his body wears out, sadly. Just amazing. Dan, how are you? Thank you for tuning in over there on YouTube. My dad's lifelong best friend from law school would become Andre's imagination. Wow. That's amazing. I bet there's some stories there. That's just incredible. Ryan, good to see you. Good friend of mine wrestled with Andre. An amazing picture of Andre holding his daughter in the palm of his hand. That is amazing. Thank you all for being here and sharing some insights and stories. This is what it's all about for me. I want these reviews to be not only me talking about what I'm reviewing, but I want us to have a conversation and to do just what we're doing right now. This is why I love doing it live, right? Michelle, good evening. Yes. What I said earlier when we first started was, I was really big into comic books, and I'm getting back into it. It's like I'm having my second childhood again. Some people would say it's a midlife crisis, but I'm only 40. So I don't think I'm midlife yet. But I loved reading comic books because I love the art. And obviously when you're tattooed and such, you love art, and or you should love art. And I love storytelling. So those two came together for me in an early age. And then seeing this resurgence in, documentary comics, graphic novels, graphic documentaries, if you will, is just awesome from a historian standpoint. John, this is amazing. Was it WrestleMania 3 saw Hogan body slam Andre? That's amazing. I love that. Captain Lou. I remember Captain Lou Albano. He was in that Cyndi Lauper video to show you the reach of WWE now, back in the day. Pop Culture 101. Captain Lou Albano was on MTV. I mean, come on. This was the way it was back then. It was entertainment. And it just became so popular. I mean, Mr. T was showing up because he had done the movie with Hulk Hogan. And there was just amazing stuff going on. Sean Miller, good evening. My brother just dropped off a comic titled Operation Overlord. Used to collect comics. The thing about just collecting historical comics and graphic novels. Used to read the Nom, loved it. Great way to get younger ones into history and reading. Thank you for that, Sean, and you're absolutely right. I am getting back into it because I'm seeing historically based comics, which are maybe weekly comics or every other week they come out, and then I'm seeing books like this. And as a 40-year-old, I'm enthralled. It's an opportunity for me to see what we can do with the history field, and really enjoy it in a new way. And I really think that's going to be great to see, what it's going to. Yeah, Dan, I know you're immigration lawyer. Yeah, imagination lawyer. I need an imagination lawyer. It's a really, really awesome thing, and I really, really enjoy it. John, Rankin Museum in North Carolina has a small Andre display with his boots and other personal mementos donated after his death. Thank you for the link. Appreciate the link there, John. I'm going to post a link to the book that I have here. If you all are interested in picking up the book, that's not the right link. Let me get that on here for you. So if you're interested in buying this one, you can. It'll bring back memories. Obviously, it's going to bring back memories. There's some great stories in here of his early days. I don't know how to say the original name that they used for him. It's like Jean Ferré. Jean Ferré. That's about as best as I can do. with French. But it's a mythical French giant akin to Paul Bunyan, is what they would call him originally. And you can see why. You can see why that fit. And it talks about, bar fights that he was in or got close to being in. It talked about people calling him a freak and all this stuff. So it's not just wrestling, it's about how people are perceived by the public. This idea of what makes a person different, how that's perceived by others who may not know Andre or may not know someone who has a disability. So it gets really deep at times because it's the story. It's the true story of what this guy went through. And as I said, it may not be the dialogue which was said to a T. It's the story. It's the moral of the story that we have to look at here. And, this guy was just an amazing entertainer, larger than life. And that's, like I said, no pun there going. They go through his time with the when he was in the movies, and just amazing stuff. And yeah, there it is. Jen's got it right there. Andre the Giant and the Princess Bride. It showed his sides, the sides of Andre the Giant on screen that people hadn't seen before. And he's slowly decaying at that time. He's breaking down. And they talk about that in the book. They talk about his physical abilities are going south. It's not working out for him. They talk about his condition. Okay, so there's like I know it's kind of hard to see, but they talk about his condition and how it affects the body. So Box Brown did a great job with that. His body continues to grow. His pituitary keeps releasing growth hormones. He's aging by the month. He's aging quicker than he should be. So it really talks about that, about his facial makeup, like his brow, his cheeks, stuff like that. You're like, why is this man look like this? It's his condition that he had. And as a kid, some kids were freaked out by that, and some kids were curious, and some kids were scared, and some kids, how we are as children. And in the 80s, watching him, I could even tell as a young child, as a getting close to 10, 11 years old, that this guy is different from everybody else for some reason. And you could just tell. I mean, if you couldn't tell, there was you weren't looking. And little did we know the health conditions that were really impeding him. And you could see it. I believe the last time he was on TV, or the last time I saw him on TV, he was walking with the little crutches to keep himself upright. And he just looked like the shell of a man. It was sad. And that's the one thing. Hey, Kendrick, how are you? Good to see you, my friend. Yeah. That's probably why too. He was walking around there in the latter part of his years with the crutches and all that, because he's starting to lose balance and everything. Hate to say it that way, but he's kind of top heavy. He's starting to go, and his legs can't hold him anymore. His knees can't put up with it. Imagine the strain those knees are on, the waistline and stuff like that. And then on top of that, you've been bounced off the mat, at least once by Hulk, and you've taken a stumble into the turnbuckle. You've maybe taken a stumble outside the ring or something. But even then, what's the most debilitating thing for him is actually his own body breaking down. Yes, the condition that he had, which I can't remember how to say it. I'm sorry. It's very treatable today. And they say that in the documentary on Andre, which is a fantastic documentary. If you haven't seen it, go check out the Andre the Giant documentary. very well done. They interview other wrestlers. They interview family. He had an adopted quote unquote family in North Carolina where he loved to spend time on the ranch, on the farm. Uh, and they talked to them. They talked to Vince McMahon, and he basically, cries almost on camera when he talks about the importance of Andre the Giant, the impact he had on him and his father. Remember, Vince McMahon Sr. ran the WWF before Junior, who now runs it. I'm sure he won't like me calling him Junior. Vince McMahon Jr. So, it's really, really interesting to think about that impact. Jen, that's a great question. Does the book delve into any Shepherd's Ferry Obey Giant Street Art campaign? I don't think it does. I don't remember seeing that in here. I don't believe. I don't think it does. I think it goes past that. That's a great question now. There's the documentary link. Thank you, John, for that. John put that in the Facebook thread there. Thank you, John. Amazing documentary on the man. Really, really enjoyed this documentary. One of my favorites that I could watch over and over again. Really, really appreciate you, John, putting that in the comments. Overall, this is a very readable book. As I said, it's only about 232 pages long. And when you're thinking about it in the traditional sense, you're thinking of a history book, 230 some pages. It's going to take you a few days to go through. This literally took me 2 days, and I didn't read like all day or anything like that. I read in the evenings, and you got your comic book format, in here. So it's a really, really easy, awesome read. My stepfather is a big wrestling fan from back in the day, and he's going to read it next because, it's just one of those things where you pass it on to the person you know is going to appreciate it after you, and I know he'll appreciate it next. And some of the names on the back cover and on the front cover who read it and admired it are, some of the people who, we grew up watching or listening to. Jim Ross is on here. You have Mick Foley on here. So these are people who knew Andre or worked in close proximity with people who worked with Andre, and people who had the stories and all that. So even outside of those in the bibliography in this book, the reviews are from people who understand the importance of books like this to introduce a new audience or an old audience to these personas, to these people. And I think it's great. And with the rise of the new era of wrestling entertainment, and now having multiple outlets, if you are into that sort of thing, to watch wrestling entertainment, it's just one of those things where it makes sense to bring out these kind of books, because wrestling entertainment is basically, I'm stretching here. It's a storyline, but it's almost like a graphic novel, right? You're watching a graphic novel unfold in front of you. People with costuming, and people with these personas, and there are tons of writers and a lot of stuff going into this, on top of being able to have the physical endurance to do what they do, and the athletic ability and stuff like that. There was the athletic ability in the 80s. There's no doubt about that, but it's dramatically changed now. Wrestling matches were slower in the 80s. I can't even tell you how many hour-long wrestling matches Ric Flair had. I forget the number of hour-long matches he had. Now, if you have a match that goes over 15 minutes, people get bored. Even 10 minutes, people get bored. So it was a different era in wrestling as well. So we have to remember that. Yeah, the series Glow summed up wrestling really well. A soap opera. It is a soap opera. It is. It's it's, to me, it's like a graphic novel now. Now that I've read this, it makes total sense why it fits, why it works, because it's already like a graphic novel come to life to me. And as you say, a soap opera. Yeah, definitely. And you have different eras, just like you have different eras of comics. You know, you had the Attitude Era, which I didn't really like it. But that's me. A lot of people loved it. That's when they fell in love with the whole thing. Um, but I grew up with it in the 80s, and I grew up with it when it was the WWF and the old NWA, which became, you know, WCW and all this stuff. And that's the era of Andre, you know. I mean, I still follow the Iron Sheik on Twitter. So I am an old school wrestling guy from back in the day, you know, and to see this sitting on the shelf from going with Jen the first time to this comic book store and seeing that there, it was immediately like, I have to have that, because that is just an awesome way of telling this story. And it didn't disappoint. You know, this one really didn't disappoint. I really liked this book. Again, the link, I'll put it once again into the Facebook page thread, because I think, you know, some of you will really enjoy it. Granted, you know, the inside of it is all black and white. It's not the huge colorful pops that you usually see with comic books or stuff, but, you know, hey, this is just awesome. This is the style that Box Brown does, and will, and, you know, gets the point across in this way. Really, really enjoyed it. I think that my connection with that past of watching that on TV week after week after week really made me want to learn how this came across in this format, and understand that you can teach history in this way, or introduce people to history in this way. There are plenty of other graphic documentaries out there, graphic historical novels, if you will, out there that I want to get. I just picked up John Lewis's 3 books on the March. I have some other ones that I'm picking up as I go along, because I really think this is a great way for us to open doors to the historical narrative to people who may not normally read about it. And this is like a Cliff Note version of history. Now, you can get the bigger traditional secondary source books, hardbacks on Andre the Giant, but this is a way to introduce some people to him in a quick format. It's visually appealing, and if you want to learn more, go to the bibliography in the back and see what else is out there, and then find these stories and cultivate them that way. That is huge to a new audience now. And, you know, it's great. See, John posted the link. See, there's the next step, right? Go and find the research bio. And there's a link there. Thank you, John, for that. Jen, I'm happy you introduced me to this as well, because this is game changer for me. I get to see new ways of interpretation, historical interpretation, writing, illustrative art, stuff like that. And absolutely, if anyone in the chat is near Annapolis, Maryland, or passing through or anything like that, check out Third Eye Comics. They are not a sponsor tonight, you know, but I can't say enough good about them. The staff there is amazing. They do a lot of great stuff. They have 3 locations. I believe all of them are in Maryland. Don't quote me on that. There might be one in Virginia. But Third Eye Comics does a great stuff. You know, I really, really enjoyed it. And they have a whole section just on documentary, just like this. So you can go in there and you can check out a lot of great stuff they're doing. I'm going to link you to Third Eye Comics here in the chat. I don't think we did that. Go give them some love. There it is, facebook.com/Third Eye Comics. Go give them some love because they're doing great things there for the comic industry. And I got some Funkos, probably like they have in the store and other things. Here's one. Thank you, Sean. He's letting us know that March was fantastic. I can't wait to read it. I got all 3 volumes used at a used bookstore. So I can't wait for that. Jen says, for anyone who enjoys Japanese manga, there's a series called Barefoot Gen that is a semi-autobiographical story about the author's childhood in post-atomic bomb Japan. See, this is what I love seeing. That's going to open up new, curiosity streams, if you will, for people, and be like, I wonder, what this was really like to experience. I wonder what it was like to live in this condition, because they're introduced to it through these mediums. I really think that one day you will see academics embracing more of this. Remember what Mouse did for us? I read Mouse in grad school and in a Holocaust class. It's being utilized. So I think that's where the whole idea started going for me, as far as, well, if this makes an impact this much and it's being used on university campuses and high schools and other places, it must be worth something. It must be useful. How is this useful? And then we move forward with that in interpretive models. This is a great way to start out and to do just that. And is there an Andre Funko? There should be an Andre Funko, and it should be like 3 times the height, and twice the width. It should be bigger than all the rest of them. I know you can get those giant Funkos, but they're like, average people. They should have a big Funko for Andre, a big respectable Funko for Andre. They actually have one, John? If they have one, I need to find it. I need to find this thing. Old School Anime is available for free on YouTube. There you go. See, this is the thing that I love doing. This is why I want to do live reviews of things. Because, John says they do. All right, we gotta look into that. I gotta put him back there. Now I'll move some of those books and put Andre there. That'd be fantastic. I want to have this interaction, right, where you're asking questions about a book or about a game or about something like that, and you're sharing your experiences with the book or with the game or with the people who we're talking about. Like John's in here and saying that he was at WrestleMania 3 and saw Hulk Hogan, body slam Andre the Giant. That's a great way to bring stuff like this to life, and to also allow you to have a deeper connection with what we're talking about. So this book is definitely one to pick up. It's a lot of fun. Read it. And if you know someone who's into wrestling history or who grew up back in the day when we used to watch this stuff all the time and it was all taped, it wasn't live, pass it on to them when you're done. I'm sure they'll enjoy it. I'm going to do that. I'm going to pass this on to my stepfather, who was huge into wrestling back in the day and still is. We can't get away from the storylines, it seems like. And Andre the Giant is a storyline unto himself. Thank you, John Owens, for the link to the documentary and to the book on Amazon. I'm really appreciative of that. Yes, that's right. Box Brown has also done some things on Andy Kaufman's involvement in wrestling, which is a whole different story. Don't even talk to Jerry Lawler about that. That's an interesting story. Box Brown is a huge wrestling fan, and it's no surprise that he did that one as well. But guys, I really appreciate you tuning in. See, this lasts longer like this. When I did when I did the video of Three Cornered War for Megan Kate Nelson, it was literally like a 15-minute video tops. I think it's on my YouTube channel here. And to be able to sit here with you for almost 40 minutes right now and go over one book that's a graphic documentary that doesn't have a lot of text but has some great stories is just awesome. And we can share these moments together and do more of that. I have to come up with a new book to review here in the near future. We have plenty of authors coming on and doing some other stuff. But this is just a great way for us to do some outreach and to give some love to some books and other, historical articles and stuff that may not get the reputation amongst the history crowd as it should, or won't be seen in a journal review or something like that. This is a way for us to do that. We're going rogue, basically, from the old review. I want to do more live stream reviewing of this stuff with you because I love having this interaction with you, and I love to be able to present this to you. I'm in love with graphic novels now, and I really think that I should write something in the future in graphic novel form, a graphic documentary form, and see how that goes. And there will be a day. I know there's a great one out there on Nat Turner. Pete Carmichael held it up the other week when we were talking to Stephen Barry, and he brought up the fact that you're probably not going to get a tenure position with this on your resume. I think there'll be a day where you should. I don't think you should be judged by the medium in which you put out good quality history. You should be judged based on where the history's good. If you bring it out a graphic documentary, fine. If it's footnoted or whatever it may be, fine. But you've made a difference. And I think there's going to come a day where, just like back in the day, I couldn't get a job because I had, tattoos below the elbows. That's changed. I think moving forward, you may have, historians writing more graphic documentaries with illustrators and really having an impact on a different set of people. And that's what it's all about, right? It's about broadening the tent and allowing more people to come in for a good time. And I think books such as this that Box Brown brought out in 2014 will do just that and has done just that. It's been out for 7 years. I'm sure someone has gotten involved in maybe making a wrestling podcast about wrestling history, or they brought this up on their wrestling podcast or a blog or something else. And it's just inspired them to look at things a little bit differently. That's what I want to do. And I know a lot of you wish to do or enjoy seeing the same thing. And I think this is one medium where that works very, very well. And I was really appreciative to see this on the shelf. And I can't wait to get back to Third Eye Comics in Annapolis and pick up the next documentary book because of that. It's just awesome. Sean, this is it. NWA every Saturday, TBS. There you go, 6:05. I was a big Horseman guy. 4 Horsemen, baby. I was all about that. You're welcome. You are very welcome. I'm just like all over the graphic novel scene. Pick it up when you get the chance. It's an awesome read. I really, really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed the bibliography because now I have more I have more books on my wish list now. Paul, I was for a time I was a Lost Cause Northern boy, and I saw the error in my ways. So thank you for that, Paul. Really appreciated that. Hey, Tony, how are you? This easily falls under the history of art and visual culture major at University of California, Santa Cruz. That's cool. Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool. And I'm glad that do that. Oh, Sean's pulling out the Road Warriors. There you go. They got some good stories on WWE Network about the Road Warriors. But thank you all for tuning in tonight. This is awesome. I wanted to try something different. Like I said, I wanted to try some live stream reviews. And I knew it wasn't going to last more than an hour because how can you review a book for an hour? It gets kind of old after a while. But really, really enjoyed this book. this is Tattoo Historian approved. Go check it out. I put the link, the Amazon link, in the thread here. And props to Box Brown for putting such a cool thing out there and allowing all of us to enjoy the story of Andre the Giant in a new way, in a new format. So I appreciate all of you hanging out tonight. We have more live stream interviews this week. We are upping the live stream interview game as well. There's going to be much, much more coming down the road. And I am really looking forward to seeing the path we go down together with the Tattoo Historian reviews. I'm already trying to get the Tattoo Historian Presents live back up and running after we get done with the COVID mess. And we'll be back doing live events again. So I'm reaching out to my sponsors for that and my locations. And we have so much more to come with this. I want to thank each of you for tuning in, not only tonight, but for liking and sharing the posts that I've been doing, the events that I've been putting up. It's a lot of hard work, but it is very enjoyable, or I wouldn't be doing it. And I didn't share this on my Tattoo Historian page, but in the last 90 days, we have reached 200,000 accounts on Facebook alone. And it's because you guys and gals like the stuff, you share it out, you throw a comment in the comment section, you tune in when we do live stuff. And I really, really enjoy being a part of the process. And if I can't teach in a classroom, maybe I can teach this way, or have people come on to teach you something awesome, bring you value. But, word of mouth is the main thing right now. I don't do ad buys. All 200,000 of those accounts that we've reached, not one of them was paid for. And that's all through word of mouth. That's through all of you sharing out a post or sharing the page with your friends and letting them know that they're welcome here, that this is a drama-free zone and that we enjoy what we do here. We enjoy each other's company in the chat. We get to go over amazing books and watch some live stream content. We talk about games. We talk about everything. It's historically based here. And I'm really, really happy with how far we've come. And I'm really excited with how far we're going. I have a vision of the next year of where I want to go. And we're going to see if we can make it happen. Kate, I don't know if we're that far yet, but I'll take it. Look for the Tattooed Historian seal of approval. I need to make Tattooed Historian seals of approval, just like me with thumbs up or something, with some kind of quirky little smile or something going on. But I'd give that out to restaurants too, actually. That'd be fun. Some stores, some restaurants, books, all that stuff. We could have some fun with that. Maybe we can get Third Eye Comics to have a little thing that's the Tattooed Historian recommends. That would be fantastic. Jaunty Crow, we need to get you involved in that too. The Jaunty Crow recommends. But hey, thank you everyone for hanging out for the last hour or so, well, close to an hour. I hope you all are doing well. Please take care of yourselves. I'm so thankful to see that you all have come this far in a very trying time. Let's get to the finish line together. Let's hang out when this is all done, because I want to meet every one of you in person, and I want to hang out and chat and see what happens here as far as the history field is concerned over the next year. Let's see what happens in 2021. So everyone, please take care of yourselves. I will chat with you very soon. Remember, this book has my seal of approval. I put the link in the threads there on Facebook and on YouTube. Andre the Giant, Life and Legend by Box Brown. Really, really enjoyed this book. Go check it out, guys. I'll talk to you real soon.